Heart Sutra.
निर्विकल्पे निरालम्बे निरवध्ये निरञ्जने नित्यानित्ये निर्विकारे प्रज्ञे देवी नमोऽस्तुते। बुद्धानां जननी शानि बोधिसत्त्वपितामही प्रपितामही सत्त्वानां प्रज्ञे देवी नमोऽस्तुते। मातर्मातर्जगन्मातः इति संजपतां नृणां मनोरथप्रदे शुद्धे प्रज्ञे देवी नमोऽस्तुते। लक्ष्मीस्त्वमसि कल्याणी श्रीधी श्रद्धा धृतिः स्मृतिः सर्वस्वरूपे सर्वेशे प्रज्ञे देवी नमोऽस्तुते। लोकोत्तरे लौकिके च प्रज्ञा पारमितैमिते दशपारमिताकारे प्रज्ञे देवी नमोऽस्तुते। ॐ नमः सर्वज्ञाय आर्यावलोकितेश्वरो बोधिसत्त्वो गम्भीरायां प्रज्ञापारमितायां चर्यां चरमाणो व्यवलोकयति स्म। पञ्चस्कन्धाः तांश्च स्वभावशून्यान् पश्यति स्म। इह शारिपुत्र रूपं शून्यता शून्यतैव रूपं रूपान्न पृथक् शून्यता शून्यतायाना पृथक् रूपं यत् रूपं सा शून्यता या शून्यता तद् रूपम् एवमेव वेदना संज्ञा संस्कार विज्ञानानि च शून्यता। इह शारिपुत्र सर्वधर्माः शून्यता लक्षणा अनुत्पन्ना अनिरुद्धा अमला विमला अनूना परिपूर्णाः। तस्मात् शारिपुत्र शून्यताया न रूपं न वेदना न संज्ञा न संस्काराः न विज्ञानं न रूपशब्दगन्धरसस्पर्शव्यधर्माः न चक्षुर्धातु यावन्न मनोविज्ञानधातु न विद्या न विद्याक्षयो यावन्न जरामरणं न जरामरणक्षयो न दुःख समुदय निरोधमार्गा न ज्ञानं न प्राप्तिर्न प्राप्तिः। तस्मात् शारिपुत्र अत्रातित्वाद बोधिसत्त्वस्य प्रज्ञा पारमितामाश्रित्य विहरति अचित्तावरणः चित्तावरणनास्तित्वादत्रस्तो विपर्यासातिक्रान्तो निष्ठनिर्वाणप्राप्तः। Tratva vyavasthitaha sarvabhuddhaha prajñā paramitāmāśritya anuttaram samyak sambodhim abhisambuddhaha tasmāt jnātavyam prajñā paramita mahamantro mahavidyamantro anuttaramantro asamasamamantраха sarvadukkha prashamanah satyam mantro amithyatvat prajñā paramitayam ukto mantraha tadyatha gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisvaha gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisvaha gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisvaha iti prajñā paramita hridaya sutram samaptam.
Thus, Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Vasatva should train in the profound prajñā paramita.
Thank you. Thank you. Masam Jimmy Jero Varij, Maje Mengana, Sosora, Jusum Jave, Yonla Jaza, Lo, Teada, Gade Gade, Baragade, Barasangade, Buddhist, Teada, Gade Gade, Baragade, Barasangade, Buddhist, Teada, Gade Gade, Barasangade, Buddhist, Niente was no cushion, you did the Kayeta, Rola, Vajana, Lajini, Rosa. Kanda Yada, the Bedon, Nabokan, and other the Zomba, Yadajan, Joseph, Sanji, Hangate, Javajo, Gawameva, Jemeva, Shavameva, Dameva, Meva, Domeva, Tademete. Jabanya Shishidemo, Zobasanya Mananye, Tambadala, Chanzelo, Kangituzenia Zone, Dawa, Jemavish, Tabishin, Quadam della Chanzelo. Yeah, that consecration on the scene. Sanjevich. 다 자본이 되가리야 발리기 추기 대선식 다 바르마다 타일랜드 소디디 발리 추기 냠시 좋은 거 야래 다데네 자나 다에네 코리아다 베나로리 아니 일본리 아니 베더 소보 Any Himalaya review Saguti the Shani, that the Yedi, any Legzag Chuyudi, that's all Nangiari. Tiniga log, that Tumung, Yamlindi, doing Yamlin the Resha, Legzag Chuyunali, any Penolova Yende, any Shayo, so that do qualia. Legzag Canalata, Duishung Zeni, or that Dushumogshayari. Zazangata doing Yamlindi, Legzag, the Bali Chuju, Niga Logi, Tumung Yamlinda, Mangshido Chadiari. Pergoyanchi takes him bus, and not our Sanga Chen Yamlin chicken, in it doing Yamlin, Google Mavado, doing Yamlin Mavado, Tindri and Tonding, Yungdua. 야 대신도 지 택고 치중스러도 배 면자로 쉬우시 돼야지 용되게도가 디디 마시베 다르샤 간다 택고 중원 지기다 간다이니 시기 년도 그때는 슝네 아니 배는 대신매다 소주로 거면 땡땡이라 주니 거면 아니 냠래는 막 지인도잖아요 아니 라고 추중을 라고 띵지 라고 싫어를 라고 쓰네 라고 숨고타네 다 냠시나데 이디 어다 태권 신비 전주 선배 되는 게 라고 망신도 다 되인버래 근데 전주 선배 추중이야 니주도 추중 아니 겨와 추두기 추중 심지 전주기 추중 쓰는 숨고야리 전주 선배 니주도 추중 조직이 소다가는 손셰베 아니 추중디 조차되게야리 자 드네 이메인도 다가는 상가 도지 대외 형으로 사샤네 아니 결론 도지 좀 봐야 돼 초동가 봐래 저 드네 인도 택보 치중 상면나리야 아니 뒤에 냠는 써야 돼다 조차되기도 아니 뒤에 냠는 나라 김배 아니 dom바다 rumjung dom바스니 간이 해봐 간다 얘니 말아도 산집에 쉬 냠는 칭에假使 수도 수이네 멍시디 추중을 냠는 거 더네 다 로가야 돼다 서비스야 돼
So as we talked about yesterday in Buddhism, we have so some people have started eating their bread. It's better to, it's more tastier if you take bread with tea. So as we talked about yesterday, Buddhism has these two traditions of Pali tradition, which is spread in practiced in Burma, Thailand, and other countries, and then there is the Sanskrit tradition, which is followed in China, Korea, Vietnam, Japan, Tibet, Mongolia, and Himalayan regions of India and other countries. In Himalayan regions, mainly they follow the Sanskrit tradition, but to both the Pali and Sanskrit traditions, what is common is the Vinaya practice, the code of conduct for monks and nuns, and the Vinaya tradition, monastic code of conduct. And with regard to that, in the Sanskrit tradition, there had been great masters like Gunaprabha and Shakyaprabha who have written great texts. And so Vinaya is the foundation and a shared practice of both Pali and Sanskrit traditions. Some people have this opinion that when they think about the Mahayana practitioners follow Tantra, and therefore, on the one hand, they think that the Mahayana, because of their practice of Tantra, they don't have any practice of Vinaya, which is a wrong view. And then on the other hand, people sometimes also say that the Mahayana is not the teaching of Buddha and so forth. And then there is also some kind of opinion from the Mahayana towards others. But what we have to understand is all the three trainings of morality, concentration, and wisdom are foundational practices, even in Mahayana. And so in the Bodhisattva practice of morality, for example, we have the practice of restraint, showing restraint. Then there is the practice of the morality of collecting or gathering dharma and so forth. And so these are basic the ethical practices that are in the Bodhisattva practices as well. And then when it comes to Tantra also, in Tantra, it is highly praised that the bhikshu who has the tantric vows, who takes the tantric vows, is highly praised and honored. And so Vinaya should be understood as the foundational practice of both the Pali and Sanskrit traditions. And whether it's within the Mahayana practice, Vinaya practice, we have those with the precepts of the vows of the lay people as well as monastics, the monks and nuns. So we have to understand, you have to understand the Vinaya or the practice of morality to be a foundation. And then within the Bodhisattva morality of Bodhisattvas, there is also the morality of benefiting sentient beings as well.
दोनों के शील के पालन के बारे में, विधियों के बारे में, तौर तरीकों के बारे में उसमें बताए गए हैं। तो फिर ये आधार जो कि शील के पालन करना है।
산지 좀 된대기 아들이 너들 랑가시에 나라 샘이 택과 창배 택과 아니 년두기 택과 랑산지게 택과 전주습에 택과 쓰잖아요. 들 송도가 다 되게 배지 저불링이 출루 영서로 나디나 숨배 소시도 데크르스로나 샘이 택과 사 대네 다 저불이 되가 그 주규 패무치 가다 미지 왜 디기 내버지 탄다 내버지 야야 치마이네 지 서유를 기하노 지금 되게 덕신을 기하노 되게 다 그게 가서 털럼 송체 딱 가다 미유로 되지 않는 로데기도 되게 인도산에 아니 지 이슈처로서 봐 다 어디서 상월로 패지 탐이 태버사지 나는 주의를 소시도 다 무디 비슝 나라 제 그게 ቋም점 신에다 항동 ቋም자야 송셔 드즈제디 아니 가다 감숨체니 대감 송감 숨이 감신 감숨체니 아니 대배 감래한데 아니 송감기 지금 삼대 다 원이와 수고 싶었으니 다 가다 제 다조 있는 삼대 십의 연체 되게 초 당연히 뭐시 지다 ቋም대야 가다 초 대회 이 순이 되게 타네야다 로대하게 다 가다 실하고 없네 지식의 신의 당 아니 그게 아니 다 가다 랑살다 지금 라과 고마디 시월 때니 시라가 나빠지냐 또는 대배 연된라 현지 착배 관에 아니 레사인도잖아 다 가다 아니 지가소래 인주 디긴두 가서 쉬었나 시 인주 디긴두야 이네 푹 전부 디기 맨데버진두잖아 대회 연단의 지성 현상기 애니 당연시버 디석이 녀터 마음 줘야 소리다 간다르다 마음 줘야 소리 저기야로다 자상가 신된을 때네 중에 디기 잠라 닝불 마대버 체제 디거벌 뭐지 체제 다 될은 대회 난 삼den기 다 삼den 대회 롤라 애니 봐 셴배관에 애니 심지식이 띵인지 줘야 다 데이터네 애니 지 대외 묘모 난 대연의 현지 착배 된대기 대외 묘모 디디 봐 가서 그게 지리아스네면도 간다 봐 숙자야래야 애니 대외 감대 라과 지 간다지 묘모 레 시우지다 제 민사벨레 rakpa데 레뉴 rakpa 숙처부 여대바 되게 견을때 다 감콘라 에니 되는데다 제 rak베견디디 바 시체 리시 데벤데차 다 문주업에 기야메데바 되게 다 네거디 시월 때니 되는데 시라가 나버진게다 람고미야 그 시라가 나버진지 지금에 항동스야 다 디고미야 여대바 디디 상배 태보하셔야 나 리기여서래 다디네 가슬러번나시 두지기 동에도 때네 너나 미시보 머리베 왕게 중에 개와시 인신절라 동에베런 신도 때네 다 딘딘데베다 가서래 개와래 타와 기드데기 개와 과버치알이야 개외주 대코는일로 몸베 머리보 세고야 인도자네 딘딘데베다 대코는이 뭔도 균네 아니 머리보 빵인도자네 산제베 슝네 타르바스 송대아디 녀몬베 칭월레 용수 트레이닝 다 땐도 때와 데네 산제베 슝네 타르바스 송야다 데리 어다 데르르 타바 주야디니 년두기 태바다 아니 템뷰자 지금 람 고야 지금 서류 다 자치 좀 개발로 처부 예배 때문에 다 년두기 태바다 랑산제 태바니시 당연히 대 잠시 이야기입니다. 산제연대 사매죠, 최제연대 사매죠, 파베견도 사매죠라 대제베 넘버 멤버 사매죠, 남다신로 저와 되네. 어떤 저주세베 태과세다디 아니 랑지부 사바 마임바 타예베 심지 타다 리아 펜베 삼바 라나메버지 그네 랑데 아니 셴드 지침버시기다 줍투야라 틀레 매밀 흔들 거야 틀레 매밀 흔들다 영향을 된다리야 아니 가서 우리 시제집어 다 뽕야기 가서 우리 뽕야기 미유루 샤니 너나 팀이 바자도 접어 빵배 남진 계획 거만 줘야 돼 아니 전주선배 태고 왔으니 태고들이 소샤
So in the Langaravtara Sutra, there's mention of 4 different vehicles: the vehicles of the humans and gods, the vehicle of Brahma, and the vehicle of the Shravakas, and then the vehicle of the Bodhisattvas. So it seems that all the different religions in the world that we have could be subsumed under these categories, 4 categories. And for example, in the case of the vehicle of humans and gods, as the different religions, according to the different religions, what they teach is how to live a good life. For a good human life, they have all these precepts and so forth, and then they show the means also for higher rebirth. And so it seems the Christianity and all these other religions, theistic religions, seems to come under this category of the vehicle for humans and gods. And then within the non-Buddhist traditions, the classical non-Buddhist traditions of India, for example, there is a practice of meditation. And so when they do the meditation, they also make, within the context of doing meditation and developing the samadhi and reaching, taking rebirth in higher realms of existence, such as the form and formless realms, and leaving the desire realm. They talk about meditation, and so they divide the whole cosmos into the 3 realms of existence: the desire, form, and formless realms. And so then when the practitioners, for example, Hindu practitioners, for example, when they do practice of samadhi, they try to develop the experience of samadhi. What they see is this desire realm is full of disadvantages, and therefore, compared to the desire realm, the realm of concentrations or the form realms are much more peaceful. And so they make this distinction between the desire realm and form realm. One, the former being more gross, the experiences being more gross and full of sensual pleasures, clinging to sensual pleasures, which give rise to lots of problems as well. And there's the more you cling to the sensual pleasures, the more problem there is, and that there's less satisfaction that you can draw. And therefore, they think that by developing samadhi, the single-pointed concentration, then they can reach the form realms, concentration realms, and which are much more peaceful compared to this. And so within the form realm, again, there are the 4 levels. The first samadhi, the first concentration level, second, third, and fourth concentration level. So they progress along this path in order to reach these different forms, realms, concentration realms. And so what they are not attached to is the sensual pleasures of the desire realm, but they still cling to the sensual pleasures of the pleasures of the form rams. And so single-pointed concentration is what they look for, and therefore they see the desired ram to be much more gross and full of faults, and then the higher rams to be much more peaceful. And so within the samsara, they make this distinction between the states or the rams where there's less advantage and the rams that have more advantage in terms of living a more peaceful life without the essential pleasures that are in the desired ram. But then although they reach these higher realms of existence, form and formless realms, they are still within the samsara. So the experiences that they develop is within the samsaric experience. But when it comes to so these teachings come under the Brahma vehicle. And then there is when it comes to the Mahayana, Buddhism. I mean, what Buddhism teaches is how to go out of the whole of samsara, because the samsara itself is under the influence of our delusions. And so when you go out of this samsara, what you reach is that of the nirvana. And so nirvana is reached by understanding the true nature of things, the truth or the reality. And with this, what happens is that we are able to eliminate ignorance, the total misconception of the reality. And then with the total when the total misconception of reality is totally gone from our mind, then we reach this nirvana or liberation, because samsara is under the influence of this ignorance. And then to go out of it, you need to understand the reality. And so this kind of within this the nirvana, when you the third vehicle is known as the Shravakayana. So within the Shravakayana, there is also, there's a slight difference in terms of what the number of practices and the and so forth that are done by certain practitioners, and therefore they are known as Pratyeka Buddhas. They follow the Pratyeka Buddhas, which is slightly different from the Shravakayana. But then these practitioners look for their own liberation, but beyond this, then what you have is the Bodhisattva Yana, the fourth vehicle, the Bodhisattva vehicle, where you don't think of liberating yourself alone, but you think of liberating all sentient beings. Now, in order to be able to help all sentient beings effortlessly, what you need to do is you need to overcome what is known as the cognitive obscuration. And so when you do away with the cognitive obscuration from within your mind stream, then you reach the final enlightenment, which is the omniscient state of Buddhahood. And so this is the fourth vehicle, which is the Bodhisattva vehicle.
Yeah. 다드네. 다 년도의 랑게 창심시님. 다 대보스무들이 아니 람 주주디 소람 졸람 통람 검람 밀올람시네 람가체제 람가르가르체네 람가 숨정하신 세대가 그래. 다 대야 아니 토마에니 탈바토니 게다 가다다 되기 쉬하게 동네지 동네도 주에 동네 두지기 동네 숨근하게도 또 두지기 동네 삼다네 다 녀몽베 샹완전도 내가 티시도 땅원에라 땐도 기버지 매댕에 지기 디토는 용도 다 녀몽을 잘다야 지다 녀몽 다 뽕도그 로지 용도잖아 녀몽베 잘래 겨와데 탈바스게 하래 덴레기다 탈바되니기로 깨네 아니 녀몽 뽕토기 땅을 탈바되니기 랑랑게다 정주 되니기로디 점어만 이 깨베 참라 이 초람사들 베다 대보숨 소소소 초람데 다 타버리 초람길 깨버리 다 되네 뭐소에는 집어 뽕야디 아니 방지 뽕야디 돈이도 싫어고 제국 여배 인도산에 다 너나다 방지 뽕셔야디 직된벨 남기 아니 방저 리식 바 독베서로 된저 뭐임바 가 땐도 방야지 라르게 미rum도 제네 방배 된저게다 방바텔라 고든스도 와 담바시나 고베다 마세야디 임바리 대응어선 대용에디 다 돈이 무슨도 떠배 박벨람디 차용이야래 돈이 무슨도 떠배 뭐라 아니 돈이를 뭐 공중 토고야래 다디 토비도 사네 아니 라준디지 강사 태버라는 그 졸람 먼저 잡아래 다 무트니 아니 돈이 튼지지 또대버들 로바 콤콤 고민도 사네 아니 졸람 저좀 서버 쳐져 사디 림베야다 먼저 제윤도 가다 니나 아니 바 누습 철 친세 아니 담아디 니나 때는 로베 때는 돈이 무슨도 떠네 아니 박배이시 먼저 주인도 사네 아니 통람사 길게 버리 다 되네 아니 통방 그 방배 저와 다 토용이야리 다 최근종 엄마디 어다 dinil 쓰가래 저와되다 다 꼭배다 맞지 저와디 무슨 대용에기 다 가다 돈이 무슨 도왜 예시디 람지다 맞지 어다 대대로 간다 이니 가소리 전이부대 땅 아주 최근적으로 교수초사게 최디 디차되어래 대남 교리계 인도자네 랑균데기 가서 박백긴 뉴스한테 잡아래 그래서 다 되게 다 되네 림기 아니 안다 통방 방향이 배지 군다 그렇게 됐송이야래 녀목 군다 다 되네 녀목 행기게 다 녀목 봐 지 고민도잖아요 림베게 아니 관람 야다 아니 먼저 쳐야지 통신 아니 더 관내 되는데보다 지버짐기다 야 가소래 생기 용무지 되는 매야 방야 고추님 되는 탈 아니 녀목 방배 자주배 고방도 제인도잖아요 년도그 청주다 랑산지 그 청주사야지 먼저 쳐버리 어다디 다 태보첨부이나 에노 장주고 심지심배 장주고 심 남귤게 윤도 solabari. Tene 돈이를 공중토비잖아요. 전주선배 잘람 gyur게니 잘람 받겨. Tene 돈이 장주고 심지심배 돈이 무슨 또 아니잖아요. 전주선배 통람 타. 아니 사탕부의 시만 체. 사탕부의 시탐네. 아니 서주 림기 되네. 아니 녀모zam도 마세베 녀몽베 샤베 파자 시제트베 그게다 봉야기 녀부름 끼네 되네 타르네 증이 파자를 잡아 빵베 참려야 에네 다번이 니기 인 터두데 다 산지 고방사 데임버리 저들이 다데 데인도 다 안다소 시로님고 나리야 돔디견이 가데 파라가데 파라삼가데 부디사 사데 다람 로벨람 시드 드네 에네 메로람 것도 지리 사지 디송이 버리
इसलिए यहाँ भी जैसे कि भगवान बुद्ध के धर्म में ज्ञान को
So with regard to the Buddhism, there are the three vehicles within it, the Shravakayana, or the hearer's vehicle, and Pratyeka Buddhayana, or solitary realizer's vehicle, and the Bodhisattvayana, or Pratyeka vehicle. And then within these, each of these three vehicles have the 5-part systems. And so when you multiply this 5-part system with the three vehicles, you have 15 different parts that are followed. So each follower of Shravakayana, Pratyeka Buddhayana and Bodhisattvayana follow these 5 parts of the respective part, their own respective parts. And so what we are looking for in Buddhism is, first of all, we are looking for liberation from samsara, from the sufferings. And out of the 3 sufferings, the main focus that we aim at to overcome is that of the existential conditioning suffering. And so in order to do do that, what you have to understand is that you are, so long as you are under the sway of our destructive emotions, there is no way you can have ultimate peace. And therefore, you see these destructive emotions to be our enemy and to overcome them. Now, the wish to overcome these destructive emotions and get out of samsara or reach liberation is when you have this genuine wish to, through this understanding, to go out of samsara and overcome these delusions that are within us. That is the first path, which is the path of accumulation. And so each of these three vehicles have their own respective path of accumulations. And so within the context of the Pratyeka Shravaka and Pratyeka Yanas, when you have this genuine wish to go out of samsara, the genuine wish, then you reach the path of accumulation. And then in order to overcome the delusions that are within us, the afflictive emotions that are within us, what you need to understand is have the understanding of wisdom realizing emptiness. And so it's not just that, through the mundane parts, like the concentration ramps and so forth, what you can do is you can suppress a certain amount of negative emotions. They may not become active, but then that's not enough. And when you want to get out of samsara, you have to realize emptiness and uproot all the causes of samsara, and so that the root of samsara, that of the ignorance, the fundamental ignorance and so forth, are completely gone, and so they can no more arise in your mind. And so what you have to realize is that of the emptiness. And so having reached the path of accumulation, then when you continue your practice, you come to the point of having this experience of emptiness through meditation, through the force of meditation, and that is when you reach the path of preparation, the second path. And then within this path of preparation, there are 4 levels. So you go through all these 4 levels, which are called the heat, the peak, the tolerance, and then the supreme dharma. So you go through these in stages, and at each stage you have less and less dualistic appearance, dualistic clinging. And so although you still have some dualistic duality in your mind with regard to realizing emptiness, when still you go through this progression of having less and less duality. And when the dualistic appearance is completely gone and from your mind in terms of realizing emptiness, then you reach the path of the Aryas, which is the path of seeing first. So within the path of Aryas, what you attain is that of the true cessation, and then that in turn is brought about by this realization, the direct intuitive realization of emptiness. And so these two, the cessation that you attain at the path of seeing and the true path, are together comprise the jewel of Dharma, the Dharma jewel. When we say, I take refuge in the Dharma jewel, this is what exactly it means, the true cessation and true path. And so you are at the path of seeing, and you have reached this the Arya part of the superior beings. And then you become also a Sangha member, because of the realization of emptiness directly and having reached also cessation. And then here what we are getting at is this, the overcoming the delusions which are called adventitious ones. So through the path of seeing, what you overcome is the adventitious delusions. But then after this, as you progress along the path, what you reach is the path of meditation. And so within the path of meditation and the path of seeing, you have the 10 bodhisattva grounds. And so you tread along the path of meditation, where you actually, it's like refamiliarizing yourself with the vision of emptiness that you have, direct realization of emptiness that you have. And through the path of seeing, the path of preparation, you overcome the delusions that are to be overcome by the path of meditation. And then then after the path of meditation, what you reach is that of the nirvana. And so this is the general explanation in the context of the Shravakayana, Pratyekayana, Buddhayana. And when it comes to put this within the context of Mahayana practice, then what you add is that of the element of Bodhichitta. So the moment you have the genuine, uncontrived Bodhichitta within yourself, you have entered the path of accumulation of Mahayana, and then you progress along the path and reach the path of preparation, which is the realization of emptiness through the force of meditation, which is influenced under the influence of Bodhichitta. And you also reach the path of seeing, and then go along the path, the 10 Bodhisattva bhumis and meditation, and then finally, when you overcome all the delusions together with the stains, you have reached the path of no more learning. And so this is in fact referred to by the mantra of Heart Sutra, Gade Gade Paragade Samgade Bodhi Swaha.
말한주다 녀몽 그 자와데 디무 덴진 사체 디무 덴진기 지더 소는신 지기 신유 랑선이 주버디 땡네 여 많이 왔지. 자 디디 인도산에 말한주 녀몽 깨하게 싸워놓고 시 내주 싸워내 매댕에 지글 다 실을 지도 소는 시자원은 뭐주고 찍을 나란즈데 리아다 여버는 진댕에기 친실로 로시 차제 로 텔 때네 에네 달라 착바질레 달라 착바 왕기 에네 다기 니둘 착바디체 라 아니 가서 당불 가서다 달라 에니 셴바다 데네 다기 디싱을 착줄베스 소는 시제 저 디리 인도산에 다 지르마 요하리 마 대원대바디 양타바리 둔센대바리 리디네 나란저 나르 떨루디 로런 나란저 남주 탐매베 땅 마사지 그게 지금 류심로 왕주네 서로 간다지 류심로 따고 장양 서로 배 지금 랑겨로 시간 로를 샤이고도 딘데 지금 로를 샤는 신지 매버리 산다 딘데기 로를 샤는 신 매버 인도산에 딘딘저보 나랑자와 지금 여버 때니 대왕의 차단께 돼야 되디 시즈 매드버지기 전에 용되기도 어디 디시버체제 차단께 시르디 나랑자와 진댕에 디 체용이요 딘데가 나랑자와 진베 로디 지도 소원은 시 되는 내용에 봐 당시 체인도 매등해지 아니 대응을 내주 그러지랬으나 오니 주변 동지 되게 한다 싫으니 나라 쑥 동보니 쑥쑥 치르기 쑥저로서 어디서 제디 만조로로 샤연도 된징원에 여버치 난그 도디 된징원에 여버치 싫게 여르디 된징원에 주변 동리스 쑥 모니 주변 동안에 숨겨야 말도 쑥매 숨겨야 말이 걔도 쑥 매가 있나 쑥 정신이 동안에 숨겨야 맨도가 쑥으로 야 말이네 여러분다 이네 예탄데 말한소로 나왔는 신도 매쟁에 그런 모니 주변 동안이래스 저장가 딘지인도 다 딘지사 디기 지도 소원은 신 전도 좀 매버지 뭐 인도산에 덴진디 치질라고 로이바다 덴진기 지도 소원 따도 좀 매버 통을 로데 로 참아이 뭐 잡된 요된 차용 인도산에 그 덴지 세롱이 뭐지 그 로르직 샤용 것도 봐 야오 상다나 와 덴지 뭐 인도산에 타르바세야지 두룽이 뭐지 배지 로리야 샤퇴야지 또가 서 덴지 인도 도든연이 나란즈 다기 덕시 터도 랑기 셰베 규 생각하여 원이 주변 동지 딘지 셰베 규 원이 동안데 동의 취 선定기 취니데 다들 점어도 제베링라 감사야지 링감사야지 디den기 점어 바자도 저 장윤도잖아요 정주사야지 정주 첨부사야지 다 딘지 인도 나란즈 규라 심 지 요하리 심데 원이 주베 동전에 단동거 정신이 딘데 인베인데 단동거 정신로 몽용도 코아 단동거 정신 심무치신 셰베 있는 냥데 딘데 인데 저 제롱이 버지 다 조리고도 와 집지기 틈어 채소나 lokhoraga dene yuzgiage nebeji rangchesu yedebeji dene ibe idusane jewu sanje ge se chidchini kembe lotti ko le nebero ko todoti yuzgbe tengne yungyo arwa de shebe rangsin le chade arwa je dene ibe idusane ane kasa jogti namji durumi beji chagi ari dene indu ngaranzoda 택보시 중 아들저 차선에 주주톤에 샤베이나 나라도 삼월로 규리야 산전 주야기 규리하리 근데 인도 나라는 final destination 와 터두기 간주피기 결서로디 터두기 제수네 가르슬럼나 구시더니 산지고 마차되어리 어디도 임베인도 또 대미규를 샤네 아니 다 산지고 봐 주고그레스 주기나 나라는 다 가서래 랑랑셰스 예베 커슬라야기 구시암 공은 주야기 네버 랑셰스 예데베 디디 이니 소벌 비게다 바 세방 베 소벌치니 용토그리 소벌 뭔도 주어지 제토그리 어디 숨겨리 야
तो जैसे कि यहाँ बोधिसत्व ज्ञान के विषय में बोधिसत्व ज्ञान हो या जैसे कि तंत्र ज्ञान हो आदि तो
And so when it comes to the teaching of the Bodhisattvas, what we are looking at is that of the attainment of Buddhahood. And so in order to reach that Buddhahood, what we have to understand is that we have to understand how the mind is affected or polluted by our destructive emotions, because this is the root of all suffering that we have. And so the destructive emotion here mainly that sees things as different from how they exist is what we call this grasping at true existence. And so the grasping at the true existence means that you have a certain way of looking at things which is not actually there. And so because of this grasping at true existence of things and clinging to it, therefore we have the rest of the destructive emotions that arise in us. And so this grasping at the true existence and sees things that is not there. So it sees things which are as opposed to the reality. And therefore, we have, because of this, we have all these destructive emotions, and based on that, we have the attachment to oneself. And then, because you think you have attachment to yourself, you also have the attachment to your own possessions, and then the rest of the things also follow, attachment to other people and relatives and so forth. And so, generally speaking, when we talk about selflessness, of course, we are not denying the existence of a person as such. But what we are denying is the existence of a person in the way it appears to this true grasping at true existence. And because of this grasping at true existence, we have all kinds of emotions like attachment or towards our near and dear ones, and aversion towards our enemies and so forth. And so this is the root of all these emotions. And what you have to understand also is that we also have this notion of a self, which is like self-sufficiently, substantially existing I. And so although you do not, there is no such a way of existence of yourself, but then we have this clinging to such a this self, which is self-sufficient, substantially existing self. And so if you carefully check whether there is such a self or not, of course, in reality, you'll not find this. And so the reality is that there is the absence of this self-sufficient self. And therefore, we have to understand that things do not have, you do not exist in this way. And then in the Heart Sutra, there is mention of form is empty. And so when it says form is empty, what it shows is that the form does not exist objectively. without being designated and so forth. And so this is the import of this, the meaning of the form being empty. And it doesn't mean that form as such is not there. But then the way the form and physical things appear to us is not the way they exist. And so there you have to understand that the appearance is not the reality of the form. And so the way the grasping a true existence of things and forms is not the way the form and so forth, the things exist. And when you understand this, what you understand also is this true grasping a true existence is totally distorted view. And therefore, because it's a distorted view, and therefore it can be overcome by the realization of emptiness, and therefore you can see the possibility of liberation, nirvana. And this possibility, there is a possibility of nirvana also from the fact, based on the fact that the mind, although it is at this point covered by destructive emotions, these destructive emotions are not in the true intrinsic nature of the mind itself. And so long as the emptiness or the suchness of the mind is covered by the grasping at true existence and the emotions, the negative emotions and so forth, it is known as the Buddha nature. And therefore, what you have to do in order to fully actualize and realize this Buddha nature so that it's freed from all the delusions, all the defilements, is the realization of emptiness. So the nature of mind is empty, and therefore there is a possibility of overcoming these delusions from within our mind. And so once you are overcome these delusions, defilements from within the mind, then that is the state where you reach enlightenment or omniscient state. So the omniscient state is that where you are totally free from all these defilements, and this comes through the realization of the true nature of the mind itself. And then we have the two vehicles of Mahayana and Hinayana, and the final destination of all followers is the Buddhahood, where there are the full Buddha bodies. So that has to be our aim, and then we have to tread along the path and realize that fully the Buddhahood.
가서시원한 시리 자 닝시 첨부 다 전주 심 가다 난게 태도에 심전 타달라 곧 타다네 왜 팬디 왜 탈투 것이다 주야지 가다 곧 타다네 팬디 주야지다 터도 남긴 사람 거야지 딘디지기 냐라 로직장 와다 ngāna samuji dāya kāna dewa yīne, ngāna samuji dōngi me dewa 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 shtāri. Dīdū sōru dī kāsa lawa nā shingi samlū tōngdāng kā tōne kiawa shibishtuwa. Samlū tōngdāng kā tōne de lōpagi tādāng rō kora gyumsen dewa jīgiyā lō chūngba yīna nyok zhā jīl dewa yīne sim shidi dewa jīgī. 삼루 동단지 먼지는 특히 푸순 사업의 의뢰 모집이 되어가지 용기가 세고도. 산타 드리인도 전에 가서다 실수사를 다 가다야니 펜베삼바 세디 다 라신 술이네 디기 자르데 펜베삼바 인데 다 띵아서 전문이 띵하라 그저 토도 밀이야 지금 세세체야 소수이네 띵냠는 챤네 다 펜베삼바디 냠네 챤네 또 챤네 냐라 소수정이기 셈나리야 펜베삼바디 게베이나 소수 기브르 주시 에네 소수 김자나 되는 소수 강도 예배 지속해나 또 챤는 거 봐. 챤든 챤펜 주야 냐라 곧 타다 스즈는다 아주 냐 가서 왜 니리니리 가다 챤는 펜버 줘야지 아주 셔트야 여러분다 다 아니 곧타다네 챤벤 주니 터도 남진 살은 거야 세샤인도 전에 다 된제가 살은 거발라 소소정이 냐라 줄이야 냠뇨 여시체체 아니 shanliya jig rocha chawrmado bena labda chimi gigin jig chani lutu mongolia pando chebala nyalo soso sheze de lemach korwa rani sheze de malona shanliya sheze tidendere pando chetya yungmarwa ta dinde induzane ta anda chanju semse de shanla pando 줘야지 내고도 터두게 팬데 고타에반에 줘야지 제하게 체도 된대기 샌드 지치 무슨 줘발라 샌드 뱀에 흔르고 네버여버지 구요하리 다 된대지 용할라 시제 줘 방구요하리 된대 인도산에 시제 줘 방배 산지지 고반데 마토바 탐면도 사바지기 다 올로든지 고 기야 용구요하리 그 점선 상도 스tam바이나 도와 조조의 샹라 팬벨로 샹뱅글로디 샹 제번즈벨로디 디야 타도 통용데 제 소수는에 커도 샹 잡아마도 신내 따서 판도치야 그거도 사버진데 아주 뭔고 요거도 와. 또 소수 커도 샹부진 안에 만드는 육가람 공모주 라마 공모주 송주리야 말라셔메 부추 켜하라 지도야 말해서 어떤 시리 그냥 소소라라 샹변 주야게 네버 담아지 마셔나 잠도가 그래서 쳐도 저 샹들이디 샹들 주인도산에 나라 장등 가셔를 보게 빵도 네버 여버시제 샹들 주고 봐 어떤지 인데 쳐도 저 샹든도 에 랑기 남진지 청주 탄두니에 드버니네 로튼지글라 청주지선 시소인 버리 어떻게 청주심 공부를 차오스 다 청주지선 리아 아니 뭐고네 야나 말씀다 죽심 니체 다 자주지서 오래 전에 쳐이나 아니 구주 청주심도 단도 청주심 니체 다 되는마 구주 청주심 다 말씀 아니 레야디 아니 정이 지구 아니 땡기 총네 라네 저기야래 이한지 담저 땀바다 지금 뭐서 체육계야 지금 되게야 균생이 타네 라메 총네래네 야고야래 어딘데 인도 청주스 가서다 말씀께야다 되네니 말씀께베 제라 아니 친루로 롬도 장네 친루로 롬도 야구촌에 참라야 아니 죽둠 란체 된데베다 민족 셈송야디 아니 파고 토믹 아니 창세 추lum리우날 답다 시셔네 아니 멤버십 게네 주스면 또 발랑 스티송샤
To the text, we are at this point where it says Bodhichitta is of two types, conventional and ultimate. So with regard to Bodhichitta, it is this wish, of course, to help sentient beings from all different angles, having this altruistic or the mind to help all sentient beings, and in order to and in order to reach Buddhahood. And so by helping the sentient beings, you wish also to reach the highest goal of enlightenment or Buddhahood. And so everyone wants to have happiness, and you are thinking of leading all sentient beings to the state of liberation or omniscience. And then we know that every one of us wants happiness and not suffering. But then happiness and suffering also are related to our way of thinking, how we look at things, our outlook on things. And so although you may not have all the amenities in life, the facilities and so forth, but if you are calm within your mind, you are able to control your emotions and all that, then wherever you are, whether you are in a very a place where there's a lot of conflict and so forth, deep down your peace of mind will not be disturbed. And then, on the other hand, even if you may be in a place where you're in a situation where you have everything thing that you need in life, all the necessities in life and everything is there, but then if your mind is not calm, then you will not find real peace of mind there. And so it's a way of your own way of looking at things, whether you have happiness or suffering. And so what we have to try to do is, first of all, build this peace of mind within ourselves, and then when you are peaceful, then you will be able to help yourself, and then your family, your community, and so forth. So it extends. The benefits that you draw extends to others as well. And so in this way, one has to know that in order to help others, one needs to develop the causes, the different facilities that you need to help others within yourself. First of all, for example, if you were to become a university professor, I mean, you have to know the subject you are going to teach to your students. Without knowing the subject, you cannot help the students. And so similarly, when you think about developing bodhicitta, what you have to think is that in order to help others effortlessly, there's no way you can do it while you are full of negativities within yourself, while you are with all this negative emotions and not knowing the reality as it is. And so what you have to understand is that you have to overcome this cognitive obscuration that is within yourself. And so once you overcome this cognitive obscuration that is within yourself, then you will be able to help others effortlessly according to the needs of sentient beings. But then the main thing that you have to understand is that of the bringing happiness, benefit to other sentient beings. With this thought or the attitude of bodhicitta, you are thinking of benefiting other sentient beings. And of course, in our life, we come across lots of occasions where we think we have the opportunity to help others, and then later on you say, "Oh, if I had done this to this person, I had the opportunity, but I didn't do this." But then. So you know you could do that, but you didn't do this to help others. And so when it comes to bodhicitta, the definition, how it's defined is that you think of helping others. In order to help others, you also think of reaching the full enlightenment of Buddhahood. And so there are these two aspirations of helping other sentient beings on the one hand, and also the aspiration to reach the full enlightenment of Buddhahood. And so with these two intentions, complemented by these two intentions, you have the true bodhicitta within yourself. And then bodhicitta is divided into two, the conventional and the ultimate. The conventional one is the wish to become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. The primary mind which wishes to become a Buddha for the benefit of sentient beings. And within this, of course, you have the aspiring bodhicitta and engaging bodhicitta. And so aspiring bodhicitta can be generated in front of a statue or representation of Buddhas or Lamas and so forth, or you can take it from a Lama in order to reaffirm to yourself to keep the promises that you make, and also to be able to keep it from degenerating with the sense of conscience. And then, having done that, you can later on take the bodhisattva vows as well, which is to say, to engaging bodhicitta.
시월에 준주제 들어 개변하는 레스 인서도와 전에 와다 간다 시월에 아니 제셔베 럽두 준주 다 랍준이고 다 장주 심종 슝베 쪼레샤 다는 둠대로 답대시는 준주들이 다 준주들이 류주여다다디 장주 심고 담바던베 슝 패지 시월에 제베 뒤주 되네 뒤 닫아봐도 장주 심종게 다 슝 약슈 차대요리 별 강진 종류야 슝딘 두살에 제리야 다 강진 종게 왜 키루기 끼고 왜 삼기미 요청 되게 준주다 냠신 나네 아니 장주 심 도주로 총 되네 있는 도배연데 살랑고 도고 전에 간다지 저도 두목으로 토반자 망세 된저도가 준주도 쉽게 가시 버려셔. 자, 드리인도 준주다 렉자데 요래. 렉자 좀 거려 요래. 자상가 애니 준주다 힌디나래 배지 요래. 자, 드리인도 향수 준주 따오래. 다 준주 류 주예에 난게 류 당보 평행 류디 직대 되는 조디 류 주버시 세베 류지 되는 류 개바 삼등 류지 다 된이부터 조다고 그래 저하다 대안的长久现在明显的命能重要宁지 장다 닝 잡아도 닝지 장다 너도지마도 쉽도 송야 말바다 인지미 준주 따오다
Bodhichitta, this altruistic intention to become Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. The most important text that we have is the Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva Way of Life and his Compendium of Practices. So these two are the main texts that explains the cultivation of bodhicitta very extensively and through reasoning. And so Shantideva is said to have written these texts in the 8th century. And so from that time onwards until today, these two texts have been the main text, the best literature on bodhicitta, the practice of bodhicitta, cultivation of bodhicitta. And in Tibet, for example, most of the great masters of the past have relied on the bodhicittas, the Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life, and then generated bodhicitta within themselves, uncontrived bodhicitta within themselves, and then they have also been progress along the path and the grounds of bodhisattvas. And so with regard to this text, the Bodhisattva Acharya Avatara, the Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life, it is still extant in Sanskrit, and there is also maybe some Hindi translations today. So this text must be studied by you.
Oh, yeah.
And then the first chapter is about the benefit of bodhicitta, and then you have to mainly focus on the 6th and the 8th chapters, which are the patience and chapters on patience and meditation.
류기 이미지를 송야래. 데 준주 송세 쳐도 제베 뒤제디 러중조 더 송거랬다. 러중파 더 송제. 데 이미지 전에 러중파지기 다 제게 착심 계약 된다. 착심 과약 된다래야. 다 착심 계약이 유 이니 비미기 땐디 이미 소다들이. 데 이미지 전에 남는층에 비미지근 거네. 개별류기 이미 산 거야. 되제마도 야디나라지 비밀을 통주체가 서로던데 상도자마다 네 뭐시버지게 그 진주 야고면도 비밀이야 몇샤스들 생겼죠. 되게 상다 말다. 리지트는 하러래 비밀이 된게 이미 송야래. 어떻게고 송세 유디 그 간다 결혼 조르기베 로중팔이야 송셔진지는 그때 차로. 저선다 비밀지기 냠리제인도 때파 가발로 하지. 저선 어다 비밀이 비미지기 준주 냠내전 상다도 와다 개베 류기 님이 와다 14고 더 상다고 그래.
So in the stages of meditation, of course, there's reference to cultivation of bodhicitta, but in terms of cultivating bodhicitta, it's very the text has very short. It's very short in that. But then you have to study the Bodhisattva Acharya Avatara by Shantideva for that. And then with regard to the Shantideva's text, Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life, of course, in some chapter it mentions about the disadvantages or the faults of a women's body. looking at the woman's body as being full of filth and all these kind of things. But you have to understand the context in which the Buddha Shantideva gave this teaching or wrote this text. It was given, taught to or written for the monks in his monastic institution at that time. So because of that, when a monk has to meditate and or to overcome that of attachment, I mean, they should think of the faults of when they become attached to women. They should think of the faulty nature of the women's body, and that is how it has to be understood. And so Shantideva wrote it for that. But when you use for women, when you use the Shantideva's text for your meditation, then you have to think about the faults of a male's body, the different faults of the male's body, and very in great detail as it is given in Shantideva's text itself. And so you have to. His Holiness is saying that he has one friend, a women friend, who says to His Holiness that Shantideva's text is not good because it really despises women. But that's not how you should think, because Shantideva's context was different. And so you have to understand the context in which Shantideva taught it, and therefore you have to be able to actually use the same logic as women when you meditate to overcome attachment. You have to look at the male body as being full of filth and all these kind of things. And so this should not be misunderstood. With regard to practitioners of Dharma, it's not necessary that everyone has to become a monastics, monks and nuns, but even living as a layperson, there's a way that you can do Dharma practice. As there is a saying in Tibetan, if you are able to do the practices correctly, then even as a layperson, you can reach enlightenment, such as the past great kings and so forth, and Mahabharata, Lotsawa and so forth. But if you are not able to do the practices correctly, then you will not be able to reach enlightenment, even if you live as a hermit.
Jalam yenchene da tokpatia zo de shirabutene rodigdoga tunido shirabutene rodigdoga tok sata lam koma joya de nyamsha kol pyodoga 제도 kol pyodoga 저 zo shirab chade yore da ande de tondom chanju 습니다 da 남지 조야 탑 zode 가다 다 남진 주발라 주변이 우리 빵고요. 주변이 뽕지 뭐지 냠버티 단도 창조 습차돼요. 다 된데도 단도 창조 습데 용알이야. 단담 창조 습스 간다. 또 돈이 또배 상동 돈이 무슨 또 상동 인도산에 상동 규를 깨발라 직전에 대만다가 상동 가리나야 상동 뒤로 깨발라 뭐라 심지직에 띵인지 줍니 진짜되다 띵인지기 냠냠 여등에 지기 아니 소소도 싫어 째니 아니 상동이 아주 송비야리 그다 자 들이 이두산에 소소 가가지고 지도가 또 상동 뒤로 깨발라 야 간다 지도도 방도 길을 개발이야. 간다 있는 신의 매바 터야마. 진짜 이도다 실한이 있어 손도와. 다 실한이 부디 고야 되는데 네. 단점 전주고 쌤 테니스 지대는 대바 저바타다 자와 시소만 순니 텐 주번니 따도 그걸 유진도 신내다 상도가 내죠 공부를 제발에 줄때 전에 송도가 신에 도와주고 그래. 다 뒤송하래. 다 된대인도 신에다 곰을다 신에다 항동스 가설라버는 신기 신에서야지 조금씩 항동서야지 조금씩 다 항동을 조금 그 켜마 켜슬라버이나 나 라메기 내줘도 되니 라벨롱스 뒤짐기 그게 냠리도 되니 윤도 항동디 자고 가서 조금 보시지 대마도 왜신 항동라 자고 켜버리 제니 따와 드는데 하다 항동 주발라 내가 신에 두고 버리 신에서야 돼 지나도 뭐래 산제베 슝네 송제베 신내되다 아니 모두기 슝 카즈 송제베 상배 택과 대주 송제베 신내디 죽다다디 집바라르샤 모다디 집바라르샤 간다다 신의 시즈잖아 가르스라나 심 급수법에 미벌리 셴베 아니 유리야 심파 초등에디 바 신의 봐 아니 급수법에 미벌 강인들 심제 지금 내den게 지기 지다샤베는 신의 센들이 지서도와 자 들이 이르잖아 다 간다 심 곰자야디 심 공부를 받다 류독스 되지고 말받다 조심 공부가 지상 심 거라 남인 지 상황도 민주화 처진에 공회시버 디디기 상황도 민주화 아니 이루 거래 지 남도 담면데 왕도 민주화 딱강 대베 미국 거래가라 로 해내 돼야지 돼야 해내 돼봐서 미쳐봐 지외 견다 차와 지워 차라가 견다 차와 근데 지기다 곰치고야 아래 그래서 어디 디만 소용 것도 다 되냐라 네 항동 지도도 봐 항동급에 주지디 띵지 개별 농지 장이 지진 뭐다 식지도로 띵지 띵인진데 공부를 지면 주스 전에 다도 두신 지금이지 전에 너무 치시 저도 사주기는 띵진 늘검신 워나 너무 뻔약 터도 가렸으나 개지철로 다음에 소소도 때다 개지 공부니 되는 양은 대도 데뷔도 워나 동리 공부를 셴베 탑지기 아니 너무 시도야 여rbes나 여말스 규신 강인 되는 실민주 세네 남제 동리 더보에 따와 지구 너무 그냥 붙이기를 마도 텔레 셴베 너무 그냥 뭐 여말이 센소리
So when in order to within the practice of the generating or cultivating bodhicitta and carrying out the bodhisattva practices, there is the the six perfections. So out of the six perfections in this text, the two are mainly focused, which are those of the shamatha and vipassana. These are the main points that are made here. And so with regard to the vipassana, the true insight, what we are talking about here is the reference is to that of the understanding of emptiness. And so the vipassana in relation to emptiness. And by realizing it, then you progress along the paths and the grounds. For example, when bodhisattvas and so forth are progress along the bodhisattva stages, I mean, from the previous level of the bodhisattva path to the next one, how they progress and how they make the transition is by remaining in the single-pointed meditation on emptiness. And so within that state, they reach the higher path and higher grounds. And so in order to reach Buddhahood, also the omniscient state, you have to overcome both the defilements of known as the destructive emotions, and as well as the cognitive obscurations. And so you have to see the emptiness directly in order to overcome these delusions or the destructive emotions that are within yourself. And so in order to reach the path which sees emptiness directly, you have to, first of all, see emptiness in the mode of what is known as generic image. And so in order to reach there, of course, you have to, first of all, do lots of so you need thereof the concentration, total concentration, for single-pointed concentration, in order to have a powerful insight or vipassana within yourself. And so the vipassana which sees the things, the reality of things as it is, has to be based on the that of the shamatha, the single-pointed concentration. And so in order to develop that, I mean, you have to go through a lot of analysis, as well as that of single-pointed concentration and placing your mind on one object. And so you have to do both the placement meditation, focusing meditation, as well as analytical meditation. Except in the case of the highest yoga tantra, where it is said that a practitioner, a meditator, can only stay in this focused meditation rather than doing analytical meditation on emptiness, in order to have the experience of shamatha and the vipassana. So with regard to the shamatha meditation, which is the calm abiding meditation, it is something which is similar to, which is a shared principle meditation between the Buddhist and non-Buddhist traditions, in terms of the identity or the nature of the concentration and the means of developing this. They are same. So with regard to this, the shamatha meditation, what it is about is focusing your mind on one object single-pointedly, so that you are free from distraction, and then you're being free from the distraction, or calming the distraction, and then being single-pointedly focused on the object. This is called shamatha, or calm abiding meditation. And then when it comes to doing meditation, of course, you have to know that it has to be done with the mind as the main factor of doing the meditation. So if your mind is rather distracted everywhere, you cannot focus your mind on the object that you try to focus on to build up the shamatha. And so within this meditation, what you do is focus your mind on one object, and the main thing that you try to overcome is, on the one hand, distractions, and then also those of the mental laxity or sinking. The mental sinking, there are the gross and the subtle ones. And then in the text, there is also the mention of so in the text it says, for this reason, the unraveling of the thought sutra says, concentration can suppress the disturbing emotions properly, and wisdom can thoroughly destroy the enlightened potencies. And then there is also next to it, after that, you have the quotation from the king of concentration, Samadhiraja Sutra. Even if you meditate with single-pointed concentration, you will not destroy the misconception of the self, and your disturbing emotions will disturb you again. This is the Udraka's single-pointed meditation. And then there is no other way to it says, when the selflessness of phenomena is examined specifically and the meditations are performed on the basis of that analysis, that is the cause of the resultant liberation. So you can reach liberation through the understanding of emptiness. And if you ask whether there are any other factors which can meditation that can lead to that of liberation, it says this no other cause can bring peace or liberation, which means no other cause or factor other than that of understanding or wisdom of emptiness can lead you to that peace or liberation.
अभ्यास के तौर पर भी रखे जाते हैं, लेकिन जहाँ तक शमाथा की बात है, शमाथा जो है चाहे बौद्ध धर्म की बात हो या हिंदू धर्म में भी ब्रह्मा आदि जो यान है उसमें दोनों के सामूहिक रूप से एक जैसे डिग्री होती है विपासना की जो बात होती है तो उसमें अंतर आता है, क्योंकि विपासना जैसे शमाथा का अनुभव ज़्यादा जरूरी है, जैसे कि पहले कहा गया कि शमाथा का अर्थ होता है कि मन जिस किसी विषय पर बैठा होता है, मन जिस किसी विषय पर है, तो उस विषय को देख करके मन यहाँ वहाँ भटक जाते हैं, उस विषय को देख करके, उस वस्तु को देख करके, उस चीज़ को देख करके उस यहाँ वहाँ जो मन खो जाते हैं या मन भटक जाते हैं, तो उस भटकाऊ मन को जो कि काबू करने के लिए, उससे एक सीख देने के लिए, उससे काबू करने के लिए जो कि क्षमाता यानी कि मन को शांत रखना, उस शांत मन के अनुभव से शांत मन माने एक मन को, उस मन को ऐसे जैसे हैं वैसे रखना, तो मन को जैसे हैं वैसे रखना, उस अनुभव से तब जाकर के हमें वासना की ओर प्रस्थान करना चाहिए। वासना माने जो वस्तुओं के सही जो उसकी पहचान है, जो उसकी वास्तविकता क्या है, उसको समझना चाहिए।
तादिने 신내다 항동 주발라 다 직도세 네 에너지 가서 우리 벽에 주산다 애니 저의 여제 다 개시슈디 애니 신내다 항동 니가로 시르고 수중되는 연구야 근데 이제 수중 타봐 다 너는 이제 tumbe기는 내봐. 나가는 시기에는 뉴중 초시. 아니 침도 내봐. 된데보다 신내기 주소. 되네 상동기 주소. 기부 담발을 담바. 망도 퇴바 용수자와 수시 삼바. 신의 시소다. 신라기 주소들이 손에. 다 들으시죠. 대대비 신내들 항동 그 주소 다 되네 쉬고 니슈접시브 슈접시비 쉬고데 난 대다를 전주 삼바 신내들 항동 그 타다 싹바 대 공발을 주고 차오스 다 공루리야 다 튼도 튼좀 체네 다디 튼스 튼좀을 다 직소소하게 써동게 제아도 지금 양수 제아도 지금 니냐도 양 간든 지금 더버든 로존샤로 가려워 디디 자체 다데네 퉁유시 스베 거돌라 아니 다 안데 난저버 공배 뒤나스 토모르 차와 찌여버 탐제 용수 조버 차라스 당냐라 아니 지기 소사 집중체야 디디 다 도르 뒤버디니 야라 듄 사디 차서와로 소베 야라 듄디 숨겨야 다 야라 듄 원도 땅내 당무시 공배 거돌라 아니 땡 신도 잠보 대와라 아니 기무중함 기무중 체배장 용데스 다 시소소는 신기 가다 되다들이 강보도시 기중함 기중 체와 강바 라바 스전에 라 냠샤기 연고 예 간데 아니 슈고양아 되는 냠내 제베이나 아니 미터 투숨 소는 신기 대본이 제제 아니 수숨 시작이야래 강발라과 깨바숨스 도시야 깨바야 나다상 강발라과 깨바숨 소더추 정보르샤 제지께하자 수수자는 담배시 아니 고믹 차보 우단셰스 다 고투സം 믹 듄데도 스마 대다지 믹 자자 담바이 많이 봐자 좀바이 많이 믹도 스모르샤 아니 욱 아니 지금 욱베 가서 우리 자숙 청부치하러 중급 숙청부치야 되는 매베신네 롱정보 전에 돼야지 되는지 더네 엔다 디 류네드 듯이
तो इसलिए यहाँ इसके बाद
So after this,
दो तरीके के बारे में शारीरिक रूप से किस तरह से
with regards to the how the one develops or those of the Shamatha and Vipassana, the text goes through how to gather the different
जीवन यापन के लिए जो चीज़ें हैं उन चीज़ों को इकट्ठा करना चाहिए और फिर वैसे भी
conditions.
शमाधा उपासना की अभ्यास के लिए शील के पालन बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है तो बिना
there's mention of the different conditions that you have to gather for developing shamatha and vipassana, such as when you develop shamatha, you have to be in a very peaceful place, which is conducive to your meditation, and you have to also have no difficulty getting the necessities of life. And then as meditation has to be done, when you do meditation or when you try to build up the training of concentration and wisdom, in order to do this, you have to have the basis for that, which is that of the practice of morality, the training of morality. Therefore, you have to keep your morality pure, and then also so with this, and also you have to and then you also have to have the different conditions to develop that of vipassana. So it says, initially the yogi should seek the prerequisites that can assist him in actualizing calm abiding meditation and special insight quickly and easily. And the prerequisites necessary for the development of calm abiding meditation are to live in conducive environment and so forth. And so then there is also the prerequisites there for developing the special insight. It says, whatever the prerequisites of what are the prerequisites of special insight? They are to rely on a holy person, to seek seriously extensive instruction, and contemplate more properly, and so forth. And so now, as a preliminary to these, during these meditations, you also have to go through the 7 limb practices, such as those of prostration and so forth, as preliminary to this. And so, within this, when you actually, having done these preliminary practices, the 7 limbs and so forth, then when you actually go into meditation, you have to have the right physical posture, such as what are known as the 7 Vairochana postures, such as having your hands in the meditation posture, where your left hand is the left palm is under your right hand, and then you hold your 2 thumbs touching the tips together, and then you have to hold this hand in this position at the navel. And of course, this has also the significance of in relation to tantra later on, and for the inner heat practice and so forth. And so then you also have to hold your spine straight, spinal cord straight, and not bending too much forward or backward or to the sides. And then the tip of your tongue has to touch the upper palate, and then you have to hold your lips in its natural position, and not too tightly closed, nor too widely open, but just the lips just touching naturally. And then you have to hold your head slightly bent forward, not so much that your chin is touching your body, but then your also eyes should be looking down rather naturally, and not too closely tight nor too widely open. And also with regard to your breath, you should not breathe too strongly, and but just breathe naturally. And then your arms, the 2 arms, as you hold your hand in this at the navel point, you hold your arms rather open, and your shoulders are also not too tight and uptight or anything like that, but naturally held. And so in this way, you have to do the meditation to cultivate shamatha, the calm abiding meditation.
Ganja lotsiji na chabine yanko chi migden sta chaboye mebache yang ji migden mebe mebache en koy ugron tu su yode bin zane ko sem digang de ya de la la sha ba so da di chabine yilu di ugron da jang le sam dan che ada usungu yu 다 친중국의 신중국 코레 강도 상단에 중국 중국다 중어동고 야 장가 직chen 장가 직단이 되게다 장가 제 니수자라로 창고 직스로 심 현도 켜는 많이 못해제 데이다 야 로수 갈리갈 로수 준야기 탑시식도가 다 되네 아니 양지 류긴네 소소래야 야 미국대야 된대 용기하리 양 다한테 대샴데 슈구 숨스타버리샤 슈구 숨스타버데 파버딩이지 개볼래 세지 카도 때문에 굴리지 지된 거 복군도 제바디 미국텔라 강그 셈주고 자주 선바 대냠샤지 차세네 소는 신기 늘다 투베과 양변의 주로 산다신 배이나 배는 지금 시월링감 서로 거미야 야 당는 신기지 가네시 거미야 서로 양변의 지스 크라이스트 야나 크로스 단자 아니 이슬람이나 배나 메카드 상다이나 아주 소소소다 가다 미타바치스 유디 둘셋담니 단 미기때니 자마리다 또 원부시가 답변 니미줄 봐샤제 또 이루 거래간에도 전에 미디 지라고 되가 사우도 스타 제다 돼야지 다들이 다 될라 선미벌 제주도 내가 발주싱해디 초고 시전에 견직 다 배지 지당지 샤비나 배지 과바세디 배지 초야 공지에 다 안데도 초고 니치도 전에 대자가 찾도와 지 대가 땅을 되박하면 지금 되베 유를 이행줘야 돼 숙체 예배 인사 된적인 되베 유를 심 초등에 될라 거베 명다 봐 대민기다 심 초대야 될라 초삼전에 다가다 초국이 심미벌 내라 바로 제고요 디바 세네 심미벌 제시도 내야지 심미벌 제시도 내베 참라 야 심베 가시우르 그게 mikba sabosla kada mikjiglote mikbaslana mikja mikba mikbe mixinda shagro sada kada lo mikjig lote shig 가서 봐 탕체 되어 서로 nhập 되어 서로 뭐인바 충동에 삼발라 다 내가 고요하리 디메버ችን 서마 nhập 되어 서로 서마지도 지 sem 소시 되어 서로 제인도잖아요 치워서야 견디 연구하리 저서 초그 지 친구니자로리아 라바 차와 신도 차와시니 다 여치고도와 나디도 소소 냠용고 때네 엔다 여완제시 먹고리 강달 미기 치 미디네다 난기 미디네다 우조 따고이네다 야나 동니권니 냐라 동번이를 잡아체니 동번이를 녀바 tembo chikpe ngeba langla ro ya samla any lar chaba mishibar dongni nge debe gaja kakzang dongsan degen ala lo hene jani di dongni lu bishine komya di su ju ya ri 자 어다 들으십니다. 제니 지단이니 다도네 곰바츠 곰도네 다와츠스 들으송도와 다 안들디 곰 타네 미딘다 다와샤니 들으게 곰자지 와다 독시 들으시면 다 들으시죠.
Here for us to focus our mind on the in and out breath as you breathe in and out. When you focus your mind on this, I mean, it's not neither a very subtle sort of focus of object that you meditate on, nor you don't have. It's not the case that you don't have any object in your mind to meditate on, and so it would be easier for us to follow our meditation by focusing on the in and out breath. And so, as you breathe, focus focus your mind, you can count your breath, I mean, in and out breath as one, call one out and in breath, count them as one, and then count this one set in 21 times or one round of mala and so forth. And you so through this, what it helps is to control your mind more and more. And then and there is also meditation. When you try to do this contemplative meditation, you can also focus on the different points on your body, but this one would be more easier to focus on the breath. And so for Christians, they can perhaps meditate or use cross, or for Hindus, they can meditate on Shivaling or Ganesh, or for Islam, perhaps Mecca. I mean, any kind of object can be used for the Shamatha meditation. But when you do meditation, meditation is not about using your senses, you're not using your eyes or anything like that, but meditation is about using your mind. And so whatever you meditate on, you have to use your mind to focus on the object. And so when you try to focus your mind, you have to be free from, you have to try to overcome your mind being distracted or being what is known as excited. So of course distraction and excitation are maybe similar, but then the mere distraction is just getting distracted to anything. But when we talk about the excitation, what it refers to is the mind being distracted to sensual things. So this is the main obstacle in bringing about the mind on a focus. Single-pointedly. And so by overcoming this excitation, then you try to develop the single-pointedness of the mind. And then when we talk about focusing, of course there is an object to focus on, there's a focusing mind, and then there's the act of focus. And so you have to also, when you focus your mind, you have to also have a very clear vision in your mind of the object, so that the mind is not dull and feeling kind of what is known as a mental sinking or laxity. Dullness should not be there. And so, which is to say that the mind is more or less kind of slackened in its effort, or there's the tight grip on the object, or the focus is not there. So you have to develop this, and by overcoming the laxity or mental sinking. And within the mental sinking and the excitation, there are differences or degrees of subtlety, the gross ones, subtle one, and very subtle ones. And so whether you focus on whether you use a certain object that's outside, or you focus your mind on your breath, what you need is to overcome these two obstacles, the excitation and sinking. And then when it comes to meditating on emptiness, for example, first of all, what you do is try to meditate, try to be certain about what emptiness is, gain insight into emptiness through analytical meditation, analysis. And then once when you gain the certitude with regard to emptiness, then you try to go into the focusing meditation. And then in this way, you develop with the help of the understanding of emptiness through this meditation, you can lead yourself into other meditations. Whereas there is also a way of bringing about the insight into emptiness through meditation. Or in other words, there is this system called finding the meditation through the view, the understanding of the view, and finding the view through the meditation. So right now what we are talking about out of these two is the latter one, finding the view or correct view through meditation. So in the text it mentions one way of doing this meditation is to set the mind closely on the mental and physical aggregates as an object that includes all phenomena. Another way is to place the mind on the image of the Buddha. And so you can use even a statue of a Buddha and so forth. And then the King of Meditative Stabilization Sutra says, with his body golden color, the Lord of the universe is extremely beautiful. The Bodhisattva who places his mind on this object is referred to as one in meditative absorption.
शमाथा के के बारे में भावना के माध्यम से बताइए।